Oh, I think I had one of those.
Those are the other things he gave us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, we are back into open session. Lou?
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, for the board to accept the employment agreement between the town and Stacy Bell for the period 2019 to 2021.
I'll second that.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I will move for the town to consider the agreement, accepting the employment agreement between the town and Douglas Curzon for the period 2019 to 2021.
I'll se-
Second.
Kathy, second. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, we have the minutes of the April 3rd board meeting. Are there any additions, corrections? Seeing none, I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have the bills to be paid. Any questions?
I would direct your attention to line 31, which will be for the cashier's check for the closing of the purchase of the Olson parcel in Ellison Bay, which will be done on the 23rd, next Tuesday.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
The municipal checking account started at $1,537,368.70. We did have a transfer of $150,000, and we earned $788.61 of interest. The ending balance as of March 31st was $1,388,157.31. The money market account started at $643,029.11. Interest earned for this month was, or for last month, sorry, $434.26. So the ending balance as of March 31st was $643,463.37. The checking account balance was $119,611.48. The deposits and transfers into the account were $128,127.06. Less the FICA, state withholding, and payroll. FICA was $9,174.52. State withholding was $1,323.82. Payroll was $27,786.70. Other disbursements were $65,460.37. The ending balance is $173,993.13. We go on to the utility district funds. Their checking and savings funds are $258,082.06. The CDs that they have are $328,716.70. So that brings the utility district total balance to $586,798.76.
Any questions?
I just want to make a comment. Thanks for doing the comparison. I think in the future, that'll be helpful to.
It's known now as the Schwengel column.
Wow,
You've been marked.
that's not a good thing.
All right, I'll move the approval of the treasurer's report.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And utility district number 1, which basically you just saw, but
So just the totals, the checking account has $60,229.89. The savings account has $150,427.82. The restricted savings account has $47,424.35. We do have two CDs. The first CD is $144,785.92. The second CD is $183,930.78. So again, that brings that total to $586,798.76.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, public input. This is your opportunity to address the board on any subjects that you'd like, and also on any agendas, excuse me. Any general comments that anybody would like to make? Agenda, oh,
Well, 16.
Well, okay.
CPC, so,
I don't know whether mine's general or specific. It's about towers and grants.
well, let's do it under that one. We'll do Dave's under 19. Anybody else, please? Yes,
Item agenda 19.
19. Mickey?
16 and 17B.
Anybody else, please? Okay, then going on. To number 16, consider the Door County Environmental Council offer to conduct surveys for Gills Rock waterfront parcels. Mike, you wanted to
yes.
talk on this,
Thanks.
please?
Thanks very much for considering our offer. You got a letter or an email that I sent, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. And in there, I outlined some of the concerns that the board members from the Environmental Council had about the survey that was administered. And so I'd just like to briefly go through and probably talk about 8, 10 different points, and then probably ask a question at the end, and then I'm sure you will debate or discuss the offer and perhaps vote on it. So the first thing that I think we would like to do, the Environmental Council, is to thank the town and the town taxpayers for the purchase of the 3 Gills Rock properties. It's obvious that we live in one of the most beautiful and unique locations in the country, and Gills Rock is the capstone of this area. This is repetitious, but we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to decide on how best to use these properties. So it's important that we make the best and most informed decision when it comes to developing or not developing this area. To the town's credit, an ad hoc committee was formed and 3 public sessions were held to receive feedback from taxpayers on how best to use these properties. Following the 3 public listening sessions, the town developed a survey that was mailed to town taxpayers, as well as an online version to print and mail in. However, the survey had several methodological shortcomings, some so critical as to question the validity of the survey. That is, was a survey measuring what it was supposed to measure, intended to measure? A well-constructed and administered survey should be valid, reliable, and objective. Some of the methodological issues with the survey included no definitions of survey terms such as museum, pavilion, safe harbor, and so on. Apparently, the survey was mailed to only 1 taxpayer per property. Some surveys did not reach their intended taxpayer because they were lost in the mail. But I think the biggest shortcoming was there was no way to track who was responding to the survey. There were no identification numbers or signature required, and I think that opened it up to perhaps if people wanted to stuff the ballot box, they had that opportunity. Even non-residents outside of the town could be voting on it by printing the online version. And there were other issues, but these were some that I think deserve being pointed out. These problems with the survey concern DCEC board members because of the nature of the properties and location. Consequently, the Door County Environmental Council offered to support and help fund a new survey, constructed and administered by a survey expert with input from the ad hoc committee. Last Monday, I spoke with John Stevenson. He's the Deputy Director of the UW-Madison Survey Center. And on yesterday, Tuesday, with Jamie Lynch, who directs the Strategic Research Institute at St. Norbert's, regarding conducting a new survey. Specifically, were they willing to conduct a new survey if they were contracted, hired? What would be the timeline, and what would be the estimated cost, among other things? From the results of the survey presented during last night's annual meeting, it's obvious that taxpayers want to protect and preserve the 3 properties, that quality of life is important to them, and perhaps that they can't or don't want to spend a lot of money on these properties. The Environmental Council does not have bottomless pockets. However, we're offering to put our money where our mouth is and support and help fund a new survey, if that's what the board desires to do and votes on it, in conjunction with and cooperation with the town and with the ad hoc committee. I think the bottom line comes down to how confident are you in the results from your survey? Are you sufficiently confident, believing you have a true measure of what taxpayers wish to have happen with these 3 properties?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mickey?
I really don't have any comments based on that, because I'm so focused on the 17B. So I appreciate his comments, and having done our best, as noted last night at the town meeting, with the resources that we have and the time constraints, that we were able to get something out, and that we have received feedback. And so this will hopefully help us to move forward in a direction that everybody feels comfortable with.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll need a motion to bring this before us, either to approve the request or not. I'll make a motion to not approve the request, and I will give you my reason if I have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm responding to an email that I received from a Mr. Cap. His position was that the town should not accept the proposal. Mr. Cap, thank you for your email and your comments regarding the Door County Environmental Council offer to conduct another survey. The item has been placed on our agenda at the request of a board member to clarify any questions or concerns regarding the survey developed by the Volunteer Task Force. That group is composed of community members with little, if any, connection to town government other than the current project. They gave freely of their time, their effort, and love for our community, and based the questions on the survey from the 3 informational sessions held in January at the NWT facility in Sister Bay. The results of that survey will be presented at tonight's annual town meeting. It is my understanding that the response numbers to the survey are remarkable and indicated a desire that whatever the outcome is, that it has broad community support and input. I am sure you are aware that at the last year's annual meeting, a motion was brought forth from the electors to authorize the board to obtain purchase proposals for the Gills Rock parcels. At that time, the board took the position that it would base the final decision of what to do with those properties on community input, and asked for volunteers to head up a task force to obtain that community input. There was never any claim by that group that the survey was professionally developed, but most importantly, it was based upon the input from the NWTC sessions. I know they spent a considerable amount of time deciding how to frame and structure the questions to avoid inserting any possible personal opinions or leading questions. It is my belief the results will put to rest any concerns or questions regarding the validity of their survey. My personal opinion is that the community has spoken, and I see no need for additional information gathering. Discussions.
Yeah. I also got the letter from Mr. Cap, and I'm the board member that requested this be put on the agenda. And the reason I did is because as board members, we often get criticisms. This was a criticism that came with a potential solution, and I thought it was the respectful thing to do to hear him out. That all said, I also received Mr. Cap's letter. I also responded to him. And he was in his letter to me, as concerned about a bias from a not-for-profit who may have an agenda of their own being involved in this, and about monies and all kinds of things. But at the meeting last night, when I saw the results, and Janet explained the results, there was a 22% response of the postcards only. Correct me if I'm wrong, Janet. And there was an additional 3% of the printed paper ones from the internet. So even if every single one of those was a ballot stuffing vote, it accounted for only 3%. And the survey indicated overwhelmingly that the community wishes on as surveys go, fairly well responded survey, overwhelmingly to leave the properties alone, make walking paths, put benches there, preserve and protect it. All of that convinced me not to change my mind about having this on the agenda, because I really appreciate it when someone does a gentle, constructive criticism and concern and then offers a solution. I think that is the way communities work together. But at the same time, I feel like John, that the community has spoken and that the survey was conducted as fair as we could do, and had the response perhaps been closer or more varied, maybe I would think differently about it, but I'm pretty well convinced that the people have spoken.
And I know, I didn't know, unfortunately, I missed the meeting last night, and I didn't know what the results were, but to me, the results, it doesn't matter what the results were per se. I'm not saying that we're not sincere about getting input, but we are also elected to make judgments. It's always a very difficult thing, I think, for, in a representative government, to know, are we always trying to get a sense of what everybody would want in a number sense and go that way, or do we use our judgment? And it's that balance in representative government that suggests that, I didn't know how the vote went. Like I say, it didn't matter. That ultimately, though, as much as we were sincere about getting input from the community, the board, the buck stops here, in that we would have to make the final decision, whether it's budgetary or otherwise, that were driving the decision as to what was going to happen. And so I too, I only saw the proposal from Door County Environmental Council, which I think is exactly, like Nancy said, the right way to do things, to be not just complain, but to offer, very generously offer a solution. But at the same time, though, I think everybody kind of got a sense from however they gave their input that ultimately would stop with the board anyway. And we'd have to do what we think is best. And sometimes, you know, you never ask a witness a question you don't want the answer to. And sometimes you might have a survey that would get an answer that you were not happy with, to suggest that this is more of a referendum, that we must follow what the survey said, as opposed to guidelines to where we are as well.
That's the comment I have too, is it was, you know, too many people thought that this was the final answer. It's a survey to determine what, you know, the grassroots feelings are about what might be done with it. But it wasn't a, you know, a final vote to say this is what's gonna be done with it. So I think the results we got give us some direction, and rightfully so. I mean, a great response.
I concur. Again, the survey results swung me, just like Nancy said. When Mr. Barkey's letter came in, I thought, oh, maybe we did miss something, and my question would be, did the survey results modify your concerns at all? And I somewhat understand the issue with the mailings, and some of them didn't make it through postage, and perhaps in another community, I might be really concerned about outside influence in terms of people making copies of that ballot, but, that survey, but when the results came in, it seemed pretty overwhelming and nothing really radical came out of it that I thought would be concerned that your group would have a problem with.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
I'll just stand here and say, it wasn't our intent to impinge on anybody's biases or whatever, either on our side or the other side, I guess. It's very interesting to us, the results of the survey, and I guess from the environmental group, what has been put there and what are the leading suggestions for what's done with this property. Agree very much with what we do. It would have been very interesting had you said, let's go ahead with a second survey and we pay for it, and it came out with a completely different result, to build a huge marina up there with boat launches and all kinds of things. Wouldn't that look, for us, So it's an interesting position to be in. So thanks for considering it, but there wasn't intent to, accuse somebody of bias on either side. That wasn't the intent of it. It was looking at the validity of the instrument, and the people have experience with surveys, realize there are certain parameters that should be followed. And so thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Going on, consider recommendations, excuse me, of the Parks and Property Committee.
Well, I lost my page. So, this is last Tuesday's meeting, recommendations coming out of last Tuesday's meeting. The committee voted 4-0 to recommend to the board a winter rate for opening of graves of $850 for property owners. And that winter rate, the dates are December 1st through April 30th. And do you want me to read both of these now, or should we do one at a time?
And the rationale, we had
Well,
Jake here.
Let's do one at a time.
That's one,
I don't-
okay.
Mickey, you wanted to comment on,
No, the,
It's on the increase in the launch fees.
oh,
Would
okay.
that be-
Let's do the,
Sorry.
you want to make a motion then to?
Well, I do have a comment. I did vote for this as it was worded and passed out, and passed the committee. I had a concern with raising the rate for just that period of time. I just wasn't comfortable with charging people more if they died in the wintertime. And that's,
I understand.
although I understand that the expense is higher, or certainly can be and has been this winter. So I'm in favor of the increase. I was myself reluctant to just stick it at this time. I was more in favor of, more.
Spreading it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And, not to say that the people who die in the summer are subsidizing those, but I wasn't comfortable with that.
Is it
That's
not-
my thing. I'm good
I
with
think
the
it's
rate.
more a question, though, of the fact that the body can be preserved and then buried during the
Off hours.
off hours.
I just had my father pass away in February, and in Madison, I was charged more, or he was charged more. I was charged more for a February opening than it would be in the summer, just because of the logistics and stuff at that particular cemetery. So it is
Okay.
a practice that does happen.
It wasn't mentioned
Well,
at the
that's
committee,
good.
but I'm just thinking of it, sitting here, you've got the frozen ground to deal with. Then you've got snow, it's slippery, and we've been out there with the backhoe and it actually slid into or damaged other headstones, so we've had extra expense there. It happens periodically, so it's not something that's just to raise it. There are extenuating and mitigating circumstances that do lead to increased cost.
What,
Right.
how much increased cost is there, and what would it affect to spread it out over, the whole season? So everybody, nobody knows when generally they're going to die, they don't plan their death to be in the summer. And I'm kind of with Kathy on that. If it doesn't adjust the summer rate to out of whack, it just seems somehow better to, flat rate, yes.
Well, you do
Flat
have a
rate.
period of time during the year where there are more people die, you have more people dying.
That's true.
I think it's in the springtime or whatever, and I forget, but it
Maybe
does go
we
in-
should
I
have
heard it was Christmas and New Year's.
several
time.
rates
It does go in
for the high
streaks.
season.
It does go in streaks where the guys are busy doing that.
Yeah.
And the case was certainly made for the increased expense.
Okay, we
For
really,
winter.
we need a motion
All
really
right.
to get into this discussion, so.
I'd move that we have that increase for the winter rates, for the burials at the cemeteries.
Second.
Second, okay, now on with the discussion, sorry.
I guess
No,
we
there's no
discussed.
discussion.
I'll call the question.
Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay, on to the increased fee for commercial boat launch.
So this was in a discussion that the committee had regarding the congestion at the Garrett Bay launch area. Congestion caused by kayakers and more general public, I don't know how to say that. But actually, somewhat this commercial launch fee is totally separate from congestion issue. But at any rate, we did pass a motion 4-0 to increase the launch fee from $100 to $150. This is an annual commercial launch fee.
Mickey?
Mickey Rush, 12676 Door Bluff Park Road, Ellison Bay. I am also the community coordinator for Door County North, the Business Community Association for the Town of Liberty Grove, which covers a large geography in addition to the communities of Ellison Bay, Gills Rock, and Rallies Bay. I appreciate your patience with my comments as I try to juggle wearing many hats as many of you on the board do. I am here in a role as a representative of my Door County North members' business interests, as well as a consumer of outdoor recreation destinations, similar to what we are blessed with here throughout the U.S. as well as other countries. In my personal and professional experience with tourism, commercial outfitters, the paddling industry, and I started in whitewater kayaking before going to sea kayaking as a result of living here, I still made it a point to seek professional guidance in order to scout what my skill level would accommodate as far as paddling around Door County. I recognize we cannot control individuals and even some outfitters' decisions as far as safety or overcrowding, but I feel we can do more to establish a dialogue and what I will call best practices, what might be our expectations with commercial outfitters of all types, but specifically those we grant launch permits to. And note, I use the word privilege as far as granting them privileges to launch. I know, having worked with paddling outfitters who do not have a diversified business model that includes a revenue source other than weather-dependent tours or events, the pressure they might feel to make decisions, and in the industry, the pressure they might feel to make decisions to go out, go paddling. In the industry, we refer to that a lot as bodies in boats. At the recent Parks and Property meeting, goals were discussed to attempt to balance the demand on our town resources with reasonable, or what we were told by the DNR are limits to the commercial fees that we can charge. Knowing that we are not the first community to experience this, I reached out to some of our DC North members in the industry for direction, and learned that the town of Jacksonport made some significant changes to their launch fees at Cave Point, including some type of share in the revenue made by the outfitters using that launch. Being naive about the period for which this increase in launch fees covers, or any requirements the town has with the applications by the commercial outfitters, specifically in respect to safety and/or credentials of their staff. Do they do anything to help educate residents, not just the consumers that they are getting paid by, like programs at the YMCA by some of our other Door County North member outfitters? I would just like to suggest that on the Parks and Property Committee, if there's time, that we work on this a little bit more. And then, not again understanding if this increase in the launch fee is something that is for the entire year and can be revisited when this is investigated a little bit more. But the fact of the matter is, from my experience also in other places, in the role that I have with Door County North and the DCVB and tourism, I really feel like we are in a period of what we need to refer to more as destination management in addition to destination marketing. The DCVB has done an excellent job of marketing this area, and we all share in that in a variety of ways. But there is, as was presented earlier, some things are very obvious as far as safety and having resources available to meet those demands. And the DCVB just recently launched a paddling video that I foresee will have a big impact and potential, even more than what we've experienced and we're discussing at these Parks and Property meetings. So I can barely talk because my mouth is so dry. It's been a long day. If you have any questions, if I wasn't balancing that well enough, who's what I'm talking about as a resident, as well as the Door County North Community Coordinator, then I want to try to answer that.
Mickey, are you assuming, are you suggesting, and you very well might be, that the Parks and Property Committee has options other than just to raise it $50, that we have maybe revenue sharing or other things like that to explore?
I think it would be wise to reach out to Jacksonport because the information that was shared with me is that it's not anything like what it appears to be that we require or that we have.
Yeah, because we were under the assumption that the DNR said the most you can charge an outfitter for the season is $150. After that, and so we made the recommendation to the town board to just up it at least to the maximum. But if you're suggesting that there are things that we can do beyond that.
I'm sharing information as a
Right.
result of speaking with an outfitter here who explained what he knew to be a fact as a result of what, frankly, an outfitter, was pretty much the person responsible for many issues of overcrowding and safety at Cave Point.
But are you, so in my mind, I hear a conflation between, say, a best practices document or standard, and then the launch fee being total. To me, the launch fee is separate. And I think we did talk about at that meeting that perhaps a best practices standards, a visit to that might help in addressing the congestion, but I kind of felt the launch fee was separate, was just under the fee issue that we were looking at that day.
Right, and I, again, understanding what an outfitter is trying to do, that I don't want to make it unreasonable for the outdoor recreation people to be able to provide or run those businesses. But at the same time, we're recognizing a demand on our resources that we sometimes maybe don't feel that we are, or I don't feel from what I'm learning, is generating the type of revenue that it should for those resources. So,
Okay, thank you. We'll need a motion, Grant, for discussion.
I move that the town raise the annual commercial launch fee from $100 to $150.
Second.
Is there a second? Nancy, second. Discussion.
We're talking about less than $3.50 a month increase.
Yeah, I don't disregard the 150, the increase, but I think it has to be open to more discussion. I mean, a commercial guy isn't gonna squawk too much going up $50.
No.
I think we need to look at, some other issues that might come up and how to generate other revenues that the DNR has put a cap on apparently. But to raise it 50 is fine, I guess it's not gonna make a difference from 100 to 150.
It appears that's all we can do in this category.
They have a formula that they figure out how much you can charge. And last year when we tried to go up significantly, they came back and told us, hey, wait, whoa. And they used their formula and came up with, I think, wasn't it 172 or something like that?
What was frustrating was they had to turn over to their legal department at the DNR to figure it out. Then we didn't hear from them for, 6 months?
Well, no, it was a little more, it was less than that, but the season was half over before we had any kind of fee. So,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I might suggest if you wanted to do something like best practices, develop some kind of a mailer that we could hand to anybody that takes out a commercial thing
That's a good idea.
and hand it to them and say, listen, here's your commercial fee or your commercial sticker, but we would like it if,
Ah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And thereby there would be some accountability, even though we might have to put Lou down there to watch.
I'm on the job.
Wait, yeah, actually, yeah, that's true.
Okay, moving on to number 18, consider contracts for building inspection services. I don't think we had anybody signed up to speak on that. We do not, okay. We'll need a motion to get it before the board as to, open for discussion. Probably not a good
Yeah.
idea for a motion to table.
I'll move that we open up this discussion at this time, because I have a question as to what kind of a time frame are we on right now?
60 days.
Is there a second?
I'll
To-
second it to open it. yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have less than what?
I think we're at 30 days, around 30 days for permits to be issued, and then an additional 30 days for inspections to be completed before we're no longer a safe-built customer.
Do we think that's,
Short timeline.
yeah, it feels short. Do we still have time for further offers? Is that what we're kind of looking at right now?
They have other offers?
Any other information for us to consider to come in?
Well, we really haven't, we really did not advertise for proposals. If you want to do that, I suppose we could, but that's going to take us way,
That's gonna take you past the 30 days
Yeah.
that we have to issue permits.
Right.
I didn't scour any of these, but I don't know that they have a sunset clause in them. You know, this offer is good for until,
oh, yeah.
I don't recall that.
I think we all got an email on the subject. And I'm a little disappointed to not hear anything about it in public tonight, Bill. That would be helpful. Don't you think?
2 companies are represented tonight. The third is not there. They have representatives out in your audience if you have questions.
I will relate to you that I had had a conversation with one of the applicants who indicated there was a petition out there. The concern was that the signers of the petition, the majority of the signers of the petition, preferred not to have their names on the public record. And as a result, the petition was never, presented officially to the town. Because there was a concern that there might be some ramifications down the line to some of the people who had signed the petitions, that it could be a kind of a contentious situation. So the decision was made not to,
So in other words, that there might be some kind of double standard used by those who sign a petition?
No, I don't think it was that.
Okay.
The intent of the petition was to recommend to the town a particular applicant.
Even without the petition, though, seeing it publicly, I think it still holds, we read that email and it didn't
Correct.
name names. I think it still holds some validity.
Okay.
And that's based not only on that petition, but some other comments that I've received from other people, too.
Okay.
Is this the current people, or is this the new one? Yeah, okay.
Well, I think the question before us, I think, is what is going to be the most expedient smooth transition from the current, company into whoever we choose. And we basically have 3, I think, very qualified, applicant companies, I guess we'll refer to them as companies.
Well, I know I've made the comment when we discussed this in closed session at our last meeting, that the Company of Door County Inspections, LLC, are people that I personally have worked with for as long as 10 years in some cases. And they are very familiar with Liberty Grove and the county text overlays that Liberty Grove has. And I believe the company represents what would be the smoothest transition, having all the records and all the history. And from my standpoint, having worked with them, as a zoning administrator in Ephraim and as a resident here in Liberty Grove and as a Plan Commission member, I would make a motion that we go with Door County Inspections LLC.
Is there a
I can
second?
second that motion.
Discussion. I think from the standpoint of cost involved, or, the fees charged and so forth, they're both very similar. I don't see any.
I don't have the background that Nancy has with any of the companies, but, and I'm solely basing it on the possible petition that was presented and also from other comments that I received from other contractors. For my selection anyways.
And I would have to abstain. I would think it would be irresponsible on my part to to decide without knowing enough. I honestly don't know enough. I was gone for a couple of weeks, and I'm in the dark. So I would abstain from any vote I took.
I don't think, under the rules, that's, you can abstain on that basis.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
I mean, you're not going to gain any monetary benefit.
I just don't have an informed
Yeah,
vote.
I know.
I don't know.
Am
I mean,
wrong on
obviously, I give
I don't see
great
how we
deference to Nancy's
stop from
opinion.
abstaining.
that? Okay. all right. The administrator says we probably cannot stop you from abstaining. Now, I'll ask the administrator, if one is between a rock and a hard place, can they abstain? Never mind.
Kind of what he's doing.
He's kind of, yeah,
That's what he's doing.
if he's not informed, then can't make an informed decision.
No, well, that was more from my standpoint than his.
I guess the question would be, waiting a few days or a week, would it help to be more informed?
How are you gonna get informed?
I don't know.
Well, I'm asking the question, how are you going to get informed?
Well, I wasn't at the closed session, for example, and
Right.
obviously this was discussed, and
Mhm.
that's not anybody's problem, that's my problem. So I wasn't informed that way, that's all. But, again, though, I have great respect for Nancy's judgment and deference, and if I were to vote, I would concur in Nancy's motion. If I were made to vote, I would agree with Nancy on her recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1, one abstention.
Who's the abstention?
I voted yes, but it didn't matter.
You voted.
Oh, you did?
I did, after all.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
deferred to Nancy. Not that it
We have
mattered.
4-1 vote. Okay, going on to number 19. Consider tower placement on town property at the end of Europe Lake Road. My apology to Parks and Property on this. Normally, this was sent to you from the Tech Committee, who technically, in normal procedure, you would go back to the Tech Committee. The Tech Committee then would send it to us. we're under a situation here, and a timing situation, that we're in the second year of the grant, am I correct, David?
Correct.
And there is a window that has to be considered for Door County Broadband to purchase the equipment and then install. Now, I'm not sure, does the equipment have to be purchased within that 2-year period? Or does it everything have to be finalized?
The funds have to be requested and distributed within the 2-year period. Janet would know more about the details of that than I do.
Okay.
That is in fact what I wanted to briefly talk about.
Well, I had attended that, and I'm going to call that ad hoc discussion on this, and listened to, I guess, both sides of the argument, don't do it because for a host of reasons, and do it for a host of reasons. And when I got home, either the next day, I read an article about Google spending a considerable amount of money laying a cable from, I believe it's Virginia, across the Atlantic Ocean that will be able to transmit the entire Library of Congress in a matter of 3 to 4 seconds, 3 times.
Oh, my God.
I think, if I remember correctly, it was on a 6-pair cable, and I don't know if anybody understands what that means. There is a company now working on a 12-pair cable, and a company working on a 24-pair cable. That is going to be astounding speed. The thought crossed my mind, we can't even get internet service to some portions of our community, for God's sakes, much less at lightning speed. And that's why I wanted to bring this to the board, to recommend that we request that that tower be installed at the Europe Lake launch ramp. And my understanding is, it's a 100-foot tower. It's probably no more, ugly, if you will, if that's the term to use, than a TV tower, much less a satellite dish sitting on somebody's roof. It's, I think if I understand the siting of it, it takes up, 5 square feet?
5 foot square.
5 foot square. And at 100 feet is not going to, be sticking way above the
The
tree
5 foot
line.
square is for the concrete anchor. The
Right.
tower itself is roughly 30 inches across at the base.
No guy wires or anything like that.
How much of a radius will that service? Any idea or estimate?
No, because the tree is so dependent on trees.
Yeah,
The radius that the tower would give could easily be a mile or a mile and a half in a clear area. But it's very specific to the individual homes and how they're surrounded by trees.
yeah.
My home is within range of 3 different towers, and I can't get service.
We're your neighbors and the same thing. We can't even use Door County Broadband
Because
anymore.
Our house is entirely surrounded by 40 and 50-foot trees.
Yeah, in our case, they're not even our trees, so we can't cut them.
But I still do have something I wanted to share though, John, if I may.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. David Studebaker, 118, I can't remember our address, 11823 Timberline Road. I wanted to mention relative to the grant specifically, it was, as John said, we got it April of last year. It was granted. We have till April of next year to claim the funds. A key component of the grant is 3 new towers. We have so far installed none of those. So we have 3 towers to install. There were a variety of impediments last year having to do with a whole series of things, and I won't go through that, but the biggest impediment we have, as I mentioned last night, is places to put the towers to make them useful. And a definition of useful is somewhat subjective, but let's say we want to be able to serve 20 to upwards of homes. Doesn't mean we require that many subscribers, but we'd like to be able to hit at least that many homes. And that's my number, not Door County Broadband's number. Our grant total was $118,760. With the matching funds, it doubles up, so it's roughly $240,000. That $118,760, whatever we don't expend in that time, gets lost. I apologize because I did not realize and didn't learn until about 2 weeks ago the timing criticality on this. As John says, the equipment has to be ordered to get installed this summer by the end of May. And we have to back up some engineering time on that. So decisions have to be made on what equipment's going to be ordered by roughly mid-May. And in order to know what equipment's ordered, it is somewhat site dependent because they do choose different equipment depending on which site it's going to be. And had I realized that, we would have been pushing faster for this. But as it is right now, the Technology Committee is working with DCB to identify 3 qualified sites. And Europe Lake was one of the sites that we certainly considered highly because Europe Lake as an area has been the top single underserved area on our list since we started doing this evaluation. It doesn't mean the people at Europe Lake, some of them don't value their environment more than they value internet, but it is the top underserved area. And we don't mean, when I say Europe Lake, it centers on Europe Lake. It goes out beyond Europe Lake to areas around that, again, depending on the topology and the trees. But, so I will be coming back, or the Technology Committee will be coming back to you with other sites to consider in the next 2 or 3, as fast as we can. We have a meeting, our next meeting is tomorrow night, and we were going to discuss this topic tomorrow night. So I just wanted to warn you that's coming. And I've been going back and forth with Nate every few hours talking about nailing down some sites. So,
Okay, great, thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Larrabee?
Thank you. My name is Craig Larrabee. I am a resident of Europe Lake, have lived there for over 30 years. I'm the president of the Europe Lake Landowners Association, charter member. We're 30 years old. And this has been an issue on our lake. We've discussed it among the residents of the lake. I have attended the Parks and Property meeting, and I'm a member of the ad hoc committee and the tech committee I've attended last month also. The situation with Europe Lake is, as Dave indicated, for one thing, it's wooded. That makes a big difference because the signal just does not get through. People would have to take down trees, trim trees in many cases in order to get the signal. The tower does not, even in its best scenario, will not service the entire lake. There have been 2 approaches looking at the lake, looking at the residents of the lake and whether or not they're interested in Door County Broadband and whether or not they're interested in having a tower at the park. And I have asked the question, the ad hoc committee had set up a criteria at the meeting last week, one of which is ask the residents how they feel about the aesthetics of a tower on the park, at the park location, on the parcel. And so that question has been asked of the residents of the lake. And there has been, the response has been heavily against putting the tower up at the park. The numbers actually are 15 individuals with one person owning 2 parcels that are, have responded on the record as being opposed to the tower at the park. We had discussed in the meetings as far as disguising the tower. It's a 100-foot silver tower with panels and an antenna. It sits on a 5-foot square, 25 square foot concrete base that's excavated and has to fit in that little park. And there were 4 individuals that said, yes, they're okay with the tower. There were 15 individuals with 16 homes included. And this is based on one homeowner response. In other words, these aren't responses like 5 people in a house all vote yes or no, that type of thing. This is the household, how are they voting? So it's really an overwhelming relative to the question. The residents of Europe Lake do not want to see that tower placed at that park. And I would welcome any questions that anyone might have.
Your second reference to 15, so you said 15 no, 4 yes, and then you said 15 again?
I
Is that
said,
in
there
reference to the no?
there are 15 individuals. One individual owns 2 homes, and so you can count him, you could count him twice or not count him twice, but I was allotting for each individual home as having a vote, which I thought was the fairest way to do it.
And is that the extent of the area served by the tower? Just those 17, or does it go beyond that?
As far as the number of individual, or the number of homes on Europe Lake? Or,
Right. In other words, you're saying that the population that you polled is not the entire population that's going to be served by the tower, though. There could be others of the 17, or the number that you
well,
gave.
these are those who responded to the survey. I will absolutely say that. I may have more responses tomorrow. I may have, this is coming in, but this is where it's at right now. And the point being is there's considerable opposition to placing the tower at the town park. Some of these individuals would not get the signal. Some of these individuals may get the signal. Some of these individuals would get the signal, but they don't want to see the tower at the park. So it's 2 separate questions. And the ultimate question that's being presented is, do you want the tower at the park? I mean, that's the question. And the consensus is no, we do not want the tower at the park.
I don't know, Kathy, did you get a different impression at Parks and Property? I thought that from what I understood, the
Technically,
homeowners.
we need a motion.
Right, I was
Before
going to
we-
ask where we are. I'll make a motion that the town approve the location of a tower at Europe Bay Boat Launch.
I'll second.
Wait, all right.
Your lake.
Lake, sorry, Europe Lake.
Discussion.
So, so I have had discussions with a number of people who contacted me, and it's definitely been people on both edges, absolutely no and absolutely yes, and people in the middle that say, you know, we have some service now. It would be, I'm not totally satisfied. Door County Broadband would provide an enhancement that they're interested in. The first choice would not be to have it at